Okay, so chances are that you have just picked up a Pixel 10, Pixel 10 Pro, Pro XL perhaps, or even a Pixel 10 Pro Fold. So I want to share with you all of the first things that you should do with your new phone to unlock all of the best new features and get the phone set up the way you want. And even if you are upgrading from another device, I always like wiping the slate clean and starting fresh every so often, instead of just continually, restoring a backup over a backup that comes with a load of bloatware that just comes with time. So this is fresh out of the box. All I've done is gone through the initial setup and signed in with my Google accounts. I've also hit yes to basically all of the defaults and skipped the last few steps. So without further ado, let's jump into the very first things I've done when setting up my brand new Pixel 10. Tip number 1, swipe down from the top with 2 fingers, tap on settings, scroll down to system and then software updates. So firstly, check that your system is up to date and force it to check for an update to make sure you have the latest version of Pixel OS installed on your phone. Once this is done, go to app updates. And again, super important here to check if there are any updates. As you can see here, there are some updates now installing, updating all of the stock Google apps which aren't installed as part of the system update that we just checked. Tip number 2, head into the settings once again, system, navigation mode, and just check what is set here, especially if you are coming from an iPhone, because by default it is set to gesture navigation, which is pretty close to the way you would already be accustomed to navigating on an iPhone, such as swiping up for the home screen and switching apps. Now I do have videos detailing exactly how to move from iPhone to an Android, which I'll link in the description below. But just in case you went through the setup and accidentally chose the wrong one, here is where you can change it. Some people I know like to use the 3-button navigation, which puts buttons at the bottom of your screen to go back, home and switch apps. If you want to, you can also toggle the option here in gesture navigation to swipe to invoke the assistant, which will then let you trigger Google Gemini's AI by swiping in on one of the bottom corners. Tip number 3, speaking of which, let's get Gemini set up to make sure it's actually enabled on your phone. So open up the Gemini app and it may well ask you a few questions just to enable Gemini. Now, all Pixels come with 1 year free of Google's AI Pro plan, after which it is £18.99 per month, at least here in the UK, if you want to continue using it. But outside of Gemini, the Pixel 10 series is also packed with the Tensor G5 and Google DeepMind to provide a number of on-device AI experiences such as Magic Queue, which I'll be showing in a follow-up video where it can pull data from other apps. So when someone texts you and asks, what time the restaurant is booked for tonight, it can look at your Google Calendar and give you a one-tap button to reply with that information, which is super, super cool. Tip number 4, back into the system settings now, as we need to check that your screen is actually set to the best quality possible. So settings, display, down to screen resolution, and you can see here that it's not the highest possible resolution setting. It does say that switching to this might drain your battery faster, so this is obviously something to keep an eye on if you find your battery is draining too much. Then this is one that you could then roll back with little noticeable difference. Tip number 5, still in the display settings, if you are installing a screen protector, I'd also enable the touch sensitivity toggle switch here and then re-enroll your fingerprints, otherwise it just doesn't work that well. And then there is a little known feature under auto rotate screen, which if you tap on it lets you enable it, but also uses face detection to know if you are using your phone and then lay down, it should intelligently know not to rotate the screen, which is definitely one to try out if you're a nighttime scroller. Tip number 6, pretty much any phone right now is going to be plenty fast enough right out of the box, but you can actually make it feel much faster. You can do this by going to settings, about phone, then software information, and tap the build number until you get a message to say that you've unlocked the developer settings. Now this is really one that's well known by now, but if you're new to maybe Pixel or Android, then possibly not. But now you have a new option called developer options available to you. From here, you can scroll down into the drawing section and there are 3 things here that are worth changing. You've got the window animation scale, transition animation scale, and animator duration scale. And by changing these from 1x to 0.5x, it makes your phone really snappy and just super responsive, as it just halves the speed of all of those animations. You can even remove them entirely by setting this to 0 if you want to, but that just feels really odd to me, so I just leave mine set to 0.5x all the time instead. Honestly, this setting alone is what makes an iPhone feel really slow when you go back to it now, because you have to wait for their admittedly pretty but really slow animations to play out each time. So yeah, this is a must change in my eyes. Tip number 7 is to add any other accounts onto my phone. Since when we go through the setup, I only signed into one account. I actually have quite a few work accounts, personal accounts, accounts I share with others. So again, I head into the Play Store, tap the small down arrow, and then add another account. And then I sign into all the other accounts I want to have on this phone. Tip number 8, the next thing I'd suggest doing is starting to download all of the apps that you want, because that could take some time depending on how many apps you want to install, how large those apps are. So we may as well kick things off here. So head into the Google Play Store. First of all, I actually like to download my Password Manager app manually before downloading anything else, just because then I know that's finished downloading and installing before I start the very time-consuming task of signing into each and every new app, and then I'm not having to wait for my Password Manager app to download at some point. Now, I personally use 1Password to do this since I use a MacBook for work. I game on a Windows PC. I even used 1Password before on a Windows-powered handheld gaming consoles. I also switched back and forth with an iPhone for some videos and comparisons like the recent Gemini versus Siri video, and it works on pretty much any device and any operating system. I've actually used them for over 10 years now with both a family and a business subscription, and for the last few years they've now been a regular sponsor of the channel, which I'm hugely grateful for, and they're sponsoring this video with a special promotion they've got going on right now, which I'll link to in the video description down below, or you can scan somewhere on this screen this QR code right here. You'll be able to go and check this out. Now I know you're probably telling me that I could just use the free Google Password Manager, but there are a few reasons here. Now, 1, nothing else seems to have the cross compatibility that 1Password does. 2, 1Password has the nicest UI of all the other Password Manager apps that I've used. So much so that others have started doing a similar design in their software in recent years. 3, it holds more than just passwords. It supports passkeys, which is way more secure than passwords. I also store other things like bank and credit card information, my passport numbers, and then I store my wife and family's information, including my team's information here. So when I book flights or hotels, I don't need to keep asking them or go find the information written somewhere else. And plus, I can securely share certain passwords with my family or my team. And then 4, Google knows enough about me already, and I don't know, I think having this data stored in a separately locked vault that only I can access is probably a sensible thing to do. But anyway, link in the description down below if you want to go check that out. Because once I am signed in to my Password Manager, then I head to Manage Apps and Device, tap on Manage, and here you can tap on where it says This Device. Now here you can see other devices you've installed apps on previously, if you're not coming from iPhone, that is of course. Or you can just go to the Not Installed section down the bottom and see all the apps you have previously downloaded at one time or another but aren't installed on this phone. Now this can be a much faster way to just bulk select and download all of the apps you wish to install in one go, rather than having to search for one and then install them one at a time all separately. But depending on how many apps you select and how big they are, of course, also the speed of your connection, it is well worth doing this and then leaving it just doing everything in the background before you then try to sign into them all. And you might notice here that your phone might also get a little bit warm or maybe run a little bit slow, and that's because all of this is happening at once. But whilst that's happening, we can continue with everything else. So tip number 9, whilst we are doing this, head into your Google Photos app now, and we want to make sure that you're actually backing up your photos. So if you are signed in with the right Google account, you can enable this as soon as you launch Google Photos, and depending on the included data in your phone contract, you can choose whether to use mobile data to back up your photos and videos or just back up on Wi-Fi. Now this is very important. A few times I've picked up a new phone and then not bothered opening the Photos app because I've just assumed that it's all backed up automatically. And then I've wondered why my photos weren't appearing on my other devices or within Google Photos. Now tip number 10, with that done, a few more basics before we really start digging into the rest of the system now. So to maximize the screen space that you have, especially on the bigger Pixel 10 Pro XL phone, tapping and holding a space on the home screen, wallpaper and style, and then change the app grid from 4x5 to 5x5 just to get more space and show more icons. Now back to the home screen again, tap and hold in a space once more, home settings, and at the bottom under search settings, enable swipe up to start search. Now doing this means that whenever you want to open an app, rather than just hunting around trying to find the icon, you can just swipe up, it will automatically bring the keyboard up, and then you can just start typing in the first few letters and get straight to the app that you want. It's just much faster than hunting through your apps, and it avoids you having to manually keep tapping to start searching each time. Tip number 11, and then we can do a quick run through the next settings to change. So open the phone app, tap the 3 dots in the top right corner, and then settings, and then go into caller ID and spam, and enable the filter spam calls just to prevent being interrupted by any suspected spam calls. And whilst you are in here, you can also head into calling accounts, tap your SIM card, and if it's available, enable Wi-Fi calling to get the best quality audio when you are on phone calls. And whilst we're here, let's also clear some of the home screen notifications now. So pull down from the top of the screen with one finger and enable the car crash detection by tapping on it. Do the same thing again for satellite SOS, and then same again to finish the Pixel setup. Now here you can transfer some items from a previous phone if you didn't do this as part of the setup, and you can also set up a few other features. Now I like enabling the always on display, also identifying music around you. There's also control what's displayed on the lock screen, so you can make sure it only displays information when it's unlocked. There's auto adjust settings to environment to enable adaptive sound and vibration. So if it knows that your phone is sat in, say, a quiet room, and then it won't buzz and be really loud, it will just know how loud the environment is around it. Tip number 12, and a fun one now. Under settings, head down to rules. And this is a little known feature on Pixels that lets you do, one common thing that you might want to do, which is to create a rule that runs when you arrive at a specific location or connect to a certain Wi-Fi network. That can either set your phone to do not disturb, silent, vibrate, or ring. And this is great if you want your phone to go into D&D every time you arrive at work, or maybe when you get home to set the ring or vibrate on so that you can put your phone down but still hear it ring. Now following on from this, if you head into settings and then modes, here is actually where you set up things like a bedtime mode, which we'll get into later, or a driving mode. You can even create custom modes for work or home or just anything else, and then configure what you want the phone to do during this mode. So you can control which notifications are allowed through, or if you want maybe notifications only from calls or messages from family members, you can select which apps are allowed through, whether alarms and sounds are allowed, and you can also do a few extra things such as automatically placing the phone into dark mode, dimming the wallpaper, disabling the always on display, and this could be really great if you want to create that sleeping mode for when charging overnight. Tip number 13, and a quality of life setting here. Under sounds and vibration, obviously you can set your ringtones and your notification sounds, but head down to the bottom and disable charging sounds and vibration. So personal, again, kind of life hack here is, so when I go to bed late at night and my wife is already asleep, I don't wake her up by plugging my phone in and it makes that charging sound and vibrates. Now obviously that means if your phone is sat on the side and it's not charging properly, then you won't hear it. You have to kind of check it manually, but at least you know the option is there if you need it. Tip number 14, app notifications. Now disable any that you don't care about, because this is where all of the noise comes from on your phone. And once you've done that, you can tap into any others to go down a level, and you can actually customize specific types of notifications within certain apps. Now it is really worth spending a bit of time doing this ahead of time just to save you the hassle later on. Alternatively, you can just choose to not do any of this, and instead, as notifications come through, you can then tap and hold to then get the option there to turn it off. And the beautiful thing about this, and one of the reasons I actually love Android phones for this feature, is that tapping the settings icon will actually take you to the app notifications page and even flash the specific category of notifications that this particular one came from. So now you know which one to switch off without affecting any other notifications from the same app. I also head into the dismiss notifications across Pixel devices and enable this if you have other Pixel devices like a Pixel tablet, as this will mean you can dismiss the notification once on one device and it removes it from both devices as well, which is a really nice Android and Pixel feature here. And again, also in this section, you can toggle the allow notification snoozing, which will then let you tap and hold on any incoming notifications and then snooze them if you want to pick them up a little later. And enable notification history. Like that way, if your phone bings or buzzes, as it does sometimes, but you're then not actually sure what's caused it, you can always head back into here to find out what actually caused it. Tip number 15, let's talk about wallpapers. So to start customizing this, you can tap and hold your home screen, then head to wallpaper and style, then tap more wallpapers, and you have a few options here. Firstly, tap AI wallpaper, and you can tap into imaginary, and then using the phrase it's given you down the bottom here, you can tap on the various words to come up with a very unique AI generated wallpaper, which is unique to you and your specific phone. Now, if you want to change the type of wallpaper, you can then tap at the top here and change to something else. But all of these are AI generated on the device itself and will be different each and every time you go in here to do this. Now, if you go back to the wallpaper screen, you can also try the animated emoji wallpapers. So here, if you tap on edit emoji, you can customize the emojis which are displayed on wallpaper. You can have some fun, add in whichever ones you enjoy. Then if you tap on patterns, you can change the style, the size of how those emojis are actually displayed on the background, and of course, change the color too. Now, once this is saved, if you tap into any space on your home screen, you can actually see the wallpaper react, which is pretty cool. And then the third one here is to use one of your own photos. But there is a cool trick to show you here. Now, if you select a photo from your library and then down the bottom, tap the little stars button, then tap on download, and it will start actually downloading the feature here because this is the first time you've launched it. But it will add in this 3D depth effect to whatever photo you've selected. So once that is downloaded, and then you apply the effect, tick the Create Cinematic Wallpaper button, and then you can set the wallpaper, and you can set either for home, lock screen, or both. And now, if you tilt the phone, you'll be able to move or see the person or object look like it's moving on screen ever so slightly. It's a very subtle effect, but still a cool effect. Tip number 16, if you want to also theme your icons to go better with your wallpaper because maybe it looks better, or maybe you just don't want the distraction of all the different colored icons, then you can head back into your wallpaper settings. And if you toggle the themed icon slider, you can now color all of your icons with the same color. And you can also switch up the color palette by tapping the different color packs above, and these will change depending on the wallpaper you are using, as it kind of tries to give you color combinations that will work well with whatever wallpaper you're actually using. Tip number 17, and whilst we are in the wallpaper settings still, you can customize the lock screen. Now, from changing the size and shape of the clock, its different styles, you can then set the color again by using these color palettes underneath. And then if you scroll to the bottom of the lock screen settings page here, you can also customize the two shortcut icons that appear. Now, by default, it is the device controls and wallet, but you can change these to one of the available options for quick access to that setting, or to say, something like launching the camera, or you can just simply switch them off for a much cleaner lock screen. Now, right at the bottom, there is an option for lock screen content, and this is well worth looking through. You can add text to the lock screen if you want to. You can also set whether you can use smart home controls from the lock screen without actually unlocking your phone. You can enable or disable the clock from dynamically adjusting the size depending on what's on the lock screen with the number of notifications. And you've also got the now playing options here, which are a top tip. If you tap to go in here, you can also then see the now playing history. So if you can't remember what the name of the song was from a few days ago, you can go in here to find the name of those songs. And if you want to, you can enhance the now playing to use Google search for unrecognized songs, as well as provide album artwork, which just each their own. It depends how much access you want Google to have to things around you. So feel free to enable that if you wish. But with that enabled, if you do go back to your lock screen and then have some music playing on in the background, you'll be able to see that it identifies what music is playing. And if you tap on it, you can then go straight to that track on YouTube Music, or just add it directly to a playlist. Tip number 18, by default, My Pixel has come with dark mode enabled, and you can change this inside of settings, under display, and then dark theme. Now, I just set this to scheduled with sunsets to sunrise, just so it's easier on the eyes at night and easier to read in the day, but each their own. If you're a dark mode only kind of person, then go with that if you want to. Also, there's night light. Enable this if you wish. I actually choose to keep it disabled as I want to see accurate colors, especially when reviewing video footage late at night, since I'm a bit of a night owl. But this feature adjusts the colors on the phone to reduce things like blue light, which is thought to keep us awake when using our phones late at night. And you can then drag the slider to control how little or how strong this effect is on your screen to find something that you're happy with. Tip number 19. A big annoyance that is set by default is the 30-second screen timer straight out of the box. This is of course to save battery life. You can either change this from the default 30 seconds, but you can also check the two options below this for adaptive timeout and also screen attention, which then uses the front facing camera to check if you're actually, still physically looking at your phone. And if you are, it will then keep the screen on for longer than the screen timeout is set to. So if you happen to be reading a long email and your screen keeps dimming every 30 seconds, this is a great feature that is well worth enabling. Now, tip number 20, this next feature is a big one for families and is something that I know many people wish they could do, and it's creating additional user accounts on your Pixel. So if you have a child, then you could have an account that's loaded up with all of their favorite apps or their games. Now, it does still use your SIM card to make calls, and you can toggle this on or off, but it is great to see you can actually have multiple user accounts on one device. Not something many people need, sure, but for those that do, really, really useful. And tip number 21, head into settings, security and privacy, and then scroll all the way down to more security and privacy. And again, scroll down. And there is an option here called extend unlock. And this option will allow you to keep your device unlocked if it meets certain requirements. Now, one of them is on body detection, which just keeps your phone unlocked whilst you are walking, in your hand, in your pocket, for up to a maximum of 4 hours. The second is trusted places, which you can then set as maybe your home, your work location. Again, maximum of 4 hours or until you leave that location. And then thirdly, trusted devices. So if you are wearing a Bluetooth watch, like maybe a Pixel watch, or even something like a Bluetooth connection to your car, it knows it's in a safe place and so won't lock again for 4 hours or until it disconnects from that Bluetooth device that you define. Tip number 22, one of the most important tips, which blows my mind why it's not enabled by default, is to protect your phone if it ever gets stolen. And then there are a few things to do here, which again, none of which are enabled by default. Identity check first will force a biometric check when either you or someone tries to get into settings such as changing your PIN or changing your password or accessing your passwords when you're away from trusted places. And then tip number 23 is one for anyone living in London, as phone theft is crazy high right now. You can enable theft detection lock, which will lock your phone if you are mid using your phone and then suddenly it gets swiped out of your hands. And one of the main reasons why theft is so big right now is people aimlessly walking whilst on their phone, walking like a zombie and not really paying attention. Then someone on a bike comes up and just swipes the now unlocked phone from your hands, and now they have full access to your phone, your apps, potentially even the ability to change your passcode. They can get into your emails and just all sorts, all because this feature isn't enabled by default. It's just absolutely crazy. And then tip number 24, there is also the option here for offline device lock. So if your phone loses signal for any reason, it will then go and lock the device. And this is mainly because maybe someone pulls the SIM card out to try and stop it being tracked. Now, enabling this feature will then lock your phone again. So if someone did get it in their hands, at least it's in a lock state, which is much harder for them to break into. Tip number 25, you can also find your devices using the Find Hub to both locate and remotely erase your phone, but again, only if you've actually set it up, which if you haven't been here before, well, it hasn't been set up. So tap on Find and Erase Your Device, which takes you into the Find Hub settings. Tap on Find Your Offline Devices, and now you can run through the setup steps. And here I would highly recommend choosing the With Network in All Areas, just for the best chances of finding your devices. Tip number 26, did you know that every Pixel phone comes with a free VPN service? Now you can set this up by going into Settings, Network and Internet, VPN, and you'll have the option here of VPN by Google. Now you can scroll down here and enable the option for using the VPN whilst you are on mobile network, or just leave this off to only protect when you're connected via a Wi-Fi connection. Now, if you don't know already, VPNs are really good from hiding you away from tracking as you browse around the web. So if you want to avoid being sent any targeted advertising and things like that, then this is really good for that. So just scroll down, tap on Use VPN, tap Allow, and it will start connecting. Like here you can see, you can also pause, switch on, switch it off, but there is a better way to do this by customizing the quick settings pull down options. So tip number 27 is to customize the quick settings. And there are two ways of accessing this. Now, firstly, you can swipe down from the top with one finger, which will give you the 4 quick settings and your notifications. And then if you swipe down a second time, it will give you a full screen quick settings screen, as well as an edit button to customize this. But the second and faster way is to just swipe down with 2 fingers, and that will take you straight to this full screen quick settings menu. And once you're here, you can tap the edit button, and now you can customize by tapping and holding and dragging things around with your fingers. Now, if you don't want something at all, you can just drag it from the top section to the bottom section. And if you want something on the very first page of the quick settings right at the top, then drag it either to one of the top 4 settings or just one of the settings below that, as just basically the lower you go, the more taps and the more swipes it will take to get there. So using the Google VPN as the example, you can find this and then drag it up to the top here. Now you can swipe back to go back a step, and you have quick access to Google VPN from the quick settings menu. Now you can also tap and hold on some of the options to go into the relevant settings for that option. So that will take you to the full Google VPN settings page that we saw earlier. But likewise, if you did the same for, say, internet, for example, that will take you to where you can connect to other Wi-Fi networks and so on. Now I generally use things like internet, Bluetooth, torch, maybe screen record, because I record a lot of my screen for these kind of videos. But you've got quick access to things like your Google Wallet, the auto rotate settings, casting to other devices, and enabling the reverse wireless charging features, and just so many others are available. So just feel free to have a play here to find what works best for you. Tip number 28, and some quality of life settings here again. So head into settings, display wellbeing and parental controls. And here you can scroll down and tap on bedtime mode, which you can now enable on a simple schedule or when charging between certain hours. And this will actually take us back to the mode screen we talked about earlier, where we can control, which people and which apps are allowed through whilst in the bedtime routine mode. Tip number 29, and if you head back to the digital wellbeing and parental control section and scroll down to flip to shush, and I love this feature, it is actually really useful. With this feature toggled on, if you are out eating a meal or just with friends and you don't want to be interrupted, you can simply just flip your phone over, screen facing down, and it will do a short of vibrate, which tells you that do not disturb is now enabled. So you can then, enjoy whatever you're doing, and then simply flip it back over, or just pick it up to disable the do not disturb feature. Now, tip number 30. Whilst you are limited to 2 shortcuts on the lock screen, there is a way to enable a 3rd shortcut. If you head into Settings, System, Gestures, and then tap on Quick Tap to start actions, and you can actually double tap the back of your phone to do things such as taking screenshots, toggling the torch, which is one I often use, or you can actually use it to open any app on your phone. And again, a common one here is to use it to launch the Google Wallet, just to give you quick access to that by just double tapping the back of your phone. But you can play around here, find what works well for you, depending on the features and the apps that you use. And then we have the cool Google features that so many people have come to rely on now, and that's why they choose a Pixel phone over, say, other phones. And that is a number of their calling features. So heading into the phone app, tap the 3 dots, go to settings, and then you have a few more options at the top here. So you've got hold for me, if you tap this and enable this. Now this will let you put your phone down whilst you're waiting on hold, maybe for a doctor's appointment or calling the tax man. And it does this by doing everything on the device. So the call actually stays connected to your phone, but your phone monitors that call and listens for when a real person starts talking, and it will then let you know when you're actually on the call with a real person and not just waiting in line. Next down, you've got direct my call, which similarly, if you ever place a call which has loads of options like calling your phone or cell provider, and you have like press 1 for sales, 2 for accounts, 3 for customer support. And again, this is done all on device, but your Pixel will listen for this and display the options on your screen, and then you can tap the options you wish to use rather than having to sit and listen and wait on that call. Then you can also enable the call screen from here, where your Pixel will actually, again, answer incoming phone calls on your device and then transcribe what they're saying on your screen. And you can then have the option to tap quick shortcuts to respond back to them, or either pick up or of course hang up the call. You can also record the call screen audio just in case you want to listen back to check if it really was who the Pixel thought it was. And you can have these automatically deleted after 30 days if you want to enable that. So that is the definitive guide to setting up your brand new Pixel 10, Pixel 10 Pro or Pixel 10 Pro Fold. I do hope you enjoy the device. Next up, I'm actually going to link you to the best accessories you can get for your Pixel 10 series, but I'm also going to link you to my last year's Pixel 9 Pro review, because I really think it still applies to anybody picking up a new phone this year. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel down below. So with that said, thank you so much. I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.